Hello everyone, how are you? Call me. Okay, somebody called me, hopefully that's okay. But how are you all doing this morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are? In case you're unfamiliar with me, my name is Mikeda Valletta, also known as the Body Scientist. And I have a background in exercise and sports science and nutrition science. Currently working on a master's of science in medical cannabis science and therapeutics. And I've committed myself to studying all the ways to take our body to its highest level. And I just want to have a quick conversation today in regards to cannabis medicine, because there are, for me, when I do research, okay, when it comes to health practices, I do look at and respect Western science. I have a background in Western science, but I also look at what has been done for generations, okay, over thousands of years, over hundreds of years, okay, to what is shown to work over generations, okay, that counts for a lot. And what I have discovered is that Western science actually backs that, okay. It's just that if you use your critical thinking skills, okay, because it's just that there's a lot of politics in Western science, so a lot of times what gets told as the common narrative is tainted because it is influenced by the money from the pharmaceutical companies and the food companies, okay? And somebody asked, where's the cannabis program? It's at the University of Maryland, the University of Maryland School of Pharmacy. And it's very interesting because being at the School of Pharmacy, most of the professors are pharmacists. Pharmacists have a different approach. Okay, first of all, pharmacy is a lot of biochemistry, okay? Dealing with biochemical pathways, dealing with the organic chemistry of compounds, dealing with receptors, and so is nutrition, okay? Nutrition is the same thing, okay? We have vitamin D receptors, you have, nutrition is all about receptors, biochemical pathways, and organic compounds, and the organic chemistry of a compound, okay? So they parallel each other very much. And pharmacy students, medical students, and nutrition students all take biochemistry. We just learn it from like a different angle. Okay, so with me having the background in nutritional biochemistry and understanding what I understand about metabolism, about natural compounds, about synthetic compounds, about how our body deals with synthetic compounds versus natural compounds, just me already having that basis. And then, bringing it over into not just cannabis medicine, but herbs, period, okay? Because I've also been studying herbology for years with traditional, different people here and there, but one of my main teachers has been amazing Mexican woman in Long Beach, California, who teaches ancestral traditions for Mesoamerican practices, but I've also learned things, I look around the world and you see similarities. Like every culture in the world, women did vaginal steams, okay? Which is where you take herbs and you put it in a pot of hot water, and the women, don't have any underwear or anything, and they squat over this pot of hot water, and they cover their lower half with a blanket, and they allow the aromatic oils, the eccentric oils, to go up into the vaginal space, up into the womb, which is very absorbent. Those mucous membranes are extremely absorbent, and it can have a lot of benefits, and every culture had that practice. There were some differences in how things might have been applied or the herbs that were used. But when you look around the world, you see those similarities, right? And so the thing is that there are people who are just like, I see, okay, with the pharmacists in the medical community, a lot of them are speaking on cannabis medicine as if they're experts, and they're new to the information, okay? They're not just new to the information, they're new to the application. They haven't even worked with a lot of people. They themselves don't have a lot of experience. Sometimes it's a lot of book knowledge, okay? A lot of book knowledge, and a lot of them, going to buy what the book says. Working with people is totally different. And when you are a practitioner, yes, you do need to have a background, a basic, you do need to have some type of background in the Western sciences, just basic stuff, so you can have a basic understanding and not get too far off and brainwashed, okay? Because that is important. But the thing is that, there's this thing where I hear, certain medical professionals or people, or even people, let's just say, who might say, they use cannabis medicinally, but they think the edibles is better than smoking, okay? And they'll say smoking was always bad, and it's just, it's just bad, and it, period, okay? Smoking is just bad. Now, number one, when you look around the world and you look back at generations and hundreds of years back and thousands of years back, there's documentation and histories of people smoking all kinds of herbs and things in many parts of the planet since the beginning of time. Okay, that's number one. All right. Being here, right here on American, soil. Okay, American Indians. All right, the indigenous people from this land, the copper-complected people from this land. Okay, smoked tobacco and smoked herbs. Okay, they smoked tobacco when they prayed. Every time we see a tobacco shop, we see a little Indian mascot standing there, okay? Now, there was not an epidemic of lung cancer, okay? To my understanding, Japanese people smoke a lot of cigarettes. They don't have a lung cancer issue, okay? So, a lot of times, it depends on what somebody's smoking, how they're smoking it, okay? And what is in that herb. Because a lot of times, just like with the food, okay? Some people could say, beef is bad. Just because the beef at McDonald's is bad, okay? You don't want to go eat a McDonald's burger, okay? No, that's bad, but that's not the same thing as getting grass-fed beef from a local farm, from healthy cows. And then that beef is high in CLA fats, which help you burn fat, which is good for your immune system, okay? It's going to have some omega-3 fats in it. It's going to have really high-quality protein, a lot of iron, a lot of B vitamins, so those are two different things, all right? Same thing with like tobacco or cannabis. You could be smoking something that is laced in chemicals, all right? The way that it was the way that it was raised, the way it was processed, and that's something, or smoking a vape, okay? I do not believe in those oils, those vape things. Those are causing chemical burns on people's lungs. And you don't see a history of anybody smoking oils like that, okay? Smoking oils out of a machine is not something that you see but people smoking out of pipes, people rolling something and smoking, yes, okay? So, and then when it comes to smoking, like, let's say, so let's say when you are, if someone is rolling something, actually, let me not even talk about that. Let me just get back to just the basics, right? When you ingest cannabis, okay, Delta-9 THC, which is what makes us intoxicated, okay, makes somebody feel, if somebody feels a certain, I hate the term high, but if somebody feels a certain, you could say high or a certain type of intoxication, would be the Delta-9 THC, all right, which turns into Delta-9 THC. Yes, I am saving this video, and I'm reposting it to my YouTube page, The Body Scientist 81. When it's in the plant, it's THCA, okay? So THC acid. When you apply heat to it, a certain temperature, it converts to Delta-9 THC, which is the part that is intoxicating, okay? That gives people the high feeling. And then, when you ingest it, that Delta-9 THC is converted by the liver to 11-hydroxy-THC. 11-hydroxy-THC is stronger, and it lasts longer. It's a different drug, okay? And so it becomes something completely different when you ingest it. And this is the reason why some people really are against consuming it. Like my dad has been smoking cannabis like my entire life, since he's been grown his entire life. And he is totally against consuming it, like eating it. He does not want to do that. And when I was last in New York, my dad, I see him walking around, his back was hurting. So I'm like, okay, let me put some of this cannabis oil in your coffee. And I put a little bit of cannabis oil in his coffee, and he was like really afraid to drink it all day long. And then finally he took a sip of it, and like he woke up in the morning and he was like doing karate kicks when yesterday he couldn't walk. Cannabis is extremely effective when it comes to back pain and spinal issues. But to me, when you're really trying to treat those deeper issues, it's better to ingest it, okay? Now, that may not be 100%. Maybe there's somebody who smokes weed and they get that kind of result. But I feel like for that kind of result, you need to ingest it, okay? And so the thing is that, he's had bad experience with consuming edibles. And I have, worked with people. Like there was once before I knew quite as much as I know now. And also I was working with somebody very prominent. CBD oil works wonders for your grandmother. That's great. Tell me, please share. There was a very prominent person, elder, okay, who, sorry, I'm reading the questions. People are watching. I know veterans who ingest it for pain and they have back issues. They swear by edibles. Yes. I feel like for the back issues, you need to ingest it. I'm not a big fan of the cookies and the brownies. I feel like, you should put it in some butter and make a buttery sauce when you're making, let's say you're making fish or you're making some kind of seafood. You can have a buttery sauce infused with cannabis, or you are, you can put it in a warm milky tea, some milky drink that's raw milk and it's warm. You can put cannabis infused coconut oil. You can, but the whole cookies and brownie, or you can put it in like a broth, a nice brothy soup. That could be a ramen, which is usually pork broth, or it could be chicken broth, beef broth, like a good broth, and you put like some cannabis infused coconut oil in it. I think those are the best ways to ingest it medicinally. I'm not with the cookies and the brownies and the candies because that's not good, okay? No matter what's wrong with you, that's not a good thing to eat. It's going to make your situation worse. Okay, so the thing is that, now I know for myself, I'm speaking for myself because everybody's different, and I've had experience working with a lot of different people. But when I use cannabis medicinally for a lot of different reasons. But none of my reasons are chronic health issues, okay? I don't have any chronic health issues because to me, the way I approach health in the body is if somebody has a chronic health issue, why do you have a chronic health issue? That's always going to go back to nutrition, 100% of the time, okay? Somebody said she has stage 4 cancer and has been using CBD oil for 18 years and she's 90. Oh, wow. So does she still have stage 4 cancer? How long has she had stage 4 cancer? And what does the CBD oil help her with? Okay, and so I know for me, like when I'm on my menstrual cycle, right? Before I ever knew like the things I know about the endocannabinoid system and like the actual science behind why cannabis helps, I know that whenever I was on my cycle, and I was never somebody who had terrible cramps or like some women who are in excruciating pain where they can't get up and go to work or go to school. I was never that bad. But I remember just being like, it's an uncomfortable feeling. I would feel bloated. I would feel like sometimes just like my back would be bothering me. It wasn't terrible, but smoking cannabis really helped me. Okay, and I'll always want to smoke more when I'm on my cycle. And I'm just like, I'm going to go into my little menstrual hut and just smoke and chill. Okay, like it really helps. And you look back in the history of time, and there's a history of women using it in that way during our cycles. There's a woman named Susan Weed. She is one of the authorities on herbs for women throughout our life, throughout our childbearing years, right? And when she talks about labor, she talks about the use of cannabis in labor. And she talks about smoking it in labor, okay? That being the best way to do it. Because if you ingest it, okay, you don't know, like, how much is too much, okay? And it takes a longer time to come into effect, okay? Then you don't know. Yeah, her name is Susan Weed. Yep. Okay, you said that 18 years with cancer, however, her body is breaking down, but CBD oil has helped with her a lot. Okay. Has she ever tried to use an oil with THC? Because with cancer, I would definitely be using THC as well. Okay. For sure. THC and certain terpenes have very potent anti-cancer properties. All right. So what kind of CBD oil was she using? Okay. So the thing is that, but when I have a headache, right, I don't want to smoke anything at all. But what I do then, I like to take CBD oil and I warm up CBD, cannabis infused coconut oil that's high in CBD. And if I don't have that, I'll use the THC one, but I really prefer the CBD with my headaches. And I put it in I drink raw milk all the time, so I heat up some raw milk and some ginger tea, and I mix that up. And ginger, of course, helps to of course, increase, blood flow and circulation. I put the cannabis infused coconut oil. Coconut oil is excellent fat for cannabinoids because coconut oil is easily absorbed. It's high in medium chain triglycerides and short chain, but mostly medium chain. Cannabinoids love fat. They love saturated fat, and coconut oil is like 90% saturated fat. But it's not just that it's 90% saturated fat. Even within that, there's different kinds of saturated fat. There are long chain, which is what we need for our brain, okay? And those are the saturated fats that are only found in animals. But then there are also medium and short chain fats that are found largely in coconut oil, okay? And they absorb very, very quickly. And they're also very antimicrobial, very antiviral, antimicrobial. So coconut oil is excellent for cannabinoids and just fast absorbing. So that's how I do when I have a headache. I got in a car accident a couple of years ago and I had terrible back pain. I mean, nothing was coming up on, I went to the chiropractor. There was nothing coming up of having any real back misalignment. But I was having terrible nerve pain to the point where I couldn't even pick up a skillet, my cast iron skillet. Or I couldn't, I would sit down and I would try to stand up and I felt like the bottom part of my lower half of my body was going to fall off. It was excruciating pain. I was going to acupuncture. And what really helped me is I took some THC, some cannabis-infused coconut oil, which is high in THC, and put that in my morning tea. Every morning I drink tea with raw milk and some ginger chai with some heavy cream, all raw. And so I put that in there. And within 30 minutes, my back felt like 90% better. And I was able to function. And I wasn't in all this pain. And so I probably did this for, maybe I was using it twice a day for a few days, and it might have been once a day, and then it trickled down to once every few days, and then it trickled down to not using it at all, and my back was completely fine. And there was a point when I thought that my back might never be the same again, and I can't afford that because everything I do, I need my body for. I travel, got to be able to pick things up and move around, do what I need to do. I'm a trainer, I'm a dancer, I can't have a bad back, but that completely helped heal me. 2018, I was on the pole training. And my navel ring got stuck in the pole and it ripped out. And it was excruciatingly painful, okay? Terrible pain. I mean, and your abs, that's the center of your body. Everything you do, even getting in and out of bed, you use your abs. So every movement I made, it was excruciating pain. And I used the cannabis oil topically for the pain and also to prevent infections, okay? Because, of course, the hospital gives me this antibacterial ointment. I'm not using that. I don't use those antibacterial ointments they give you. I put the cannabis oil because the coconut oil is highly antiviral, antimicrobial, so are the cannabinoids and the terpenes. So I put that on there, so it served two purposes, right? Smoking it at that time wouldn't have helped me, okay? Now, when I want to... There are times that my stomach has felt like, if I feel like my digestive system is a little funky or maybe I need to calm down. Let's say if I was able to, I used to be an athlete. I used to run track. I used to play basketball. I remember when I ran track, our stomach would be in knots, okay, before a meet. To the point where you almost felt sick because you were so nervous. You'd be knotted up. I mean, basketball, that may happen a little, but not with track. It was even worse, maybe because it was an individual sport. But if I, were able to do what I was able to, if I was able to smoke before that, that would have been what I would have done to calm down my stomach. It wouldn't be I'm going to take an edible. No. You know what I'm saying? Because one thing, again, about edibles is that you don't know how much is too much until it's too late. And if it is too much, you have to wait a long time before, you're okay again. Whereas when you're smoking, you know exactly when I'm good, I've had enough, So that's one thing to consider, okay, when you're talking about edibles versus smoking. When somebody acts like it's always better to, for edibles. Then another thing, a lot of people think smoking is bad for your lungs and your breathing. And it's no, that's not true, okay? Actually, smoking cannabis is actually good for asthma. It's good for opening up the airways, okay? Now, cannabinoids open up our blood vessels, open everything up. tobacco restricts, okay? So smoking a lot of tobacco does not have the same effect as smoking a lot of cannabis, okay? And so to me, smoking tobacco is something that is supposed to be kept at a minimum, okay? It has its purpose, it has medicinal purposes, and tobacco has many medicinal applications. But tobacco is also very much a poison, whereas like cannabis is more, to me, even more of a potent medicine, but can also work in tandem with tobacco. But my point is that you can smoke a lot of cannabis and be absolutely fine. Smoking a lot of tobacco is more damaging, okay? So, let me think of another situation. Yeah, so for me, it's calming down our reproductive organs and our digestive system, digestive system, those organs affect each other, okay? They're interconnected. What affects your reproductive organs also affects your digestive system and vice versa. So for me, when I think of trying to calm down my uterus, trying to calm down my intestines, like anything like that, smoking it is what I think of, okay? Now, if somebody had a chronic condition like Crohn's disease, I don't have that issue. I would say with my recommendation, and again, people can try, when I work with people, I give different recommendations, and, there's different options that people can try. I might say this is what I would do, this is what I recommend, but some people may not be able to have access to certain consumption methods because, for various reasons dealing with their lifestyle. But what I would recommend for someone that had Crohn's disease or irritable bowel syndrome would be you could try smoking. Smoking might help them, okay? But I would also say that they should ingest it, like in a ghee, okay, or butter, because ghee and butter is high in butyric acid, and butyric acid is critical for feeding the good bacteria in our gut and that microbiome in the gut. Really, really critical for healing the gut. And also has arachidonic acid, which is critical for healing the gut. The coconut oil is very antiviral, antimicrobial, so it's good for the microbiome. But I would probably go for a ghee or a butter, and then even maybe a coconut oil, but I would have them ingested as well in micro doses, probably throughout the day on some good quality food. And then depending on the terpenes, like I just got a cannabis strain in Chicago actually that has it's called lime skunk cookies, lime skunk muffins. And I'm gonna do some reviews on cannabis strains on my subscriptions section on my Instagram page, because I am very much into the terpenes. When I look at cannabis strains, I do not look at the THC content at all. And I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, it does. But to me, the terpenes are a lot more important, okay? To me, whether the THC is 15% or 20%, it's all kind of the same thing. When I see in New York, and I want to do a video about this because I've been meaning to do a video about this, but I've seen some crazy shit in New York with cannabis strains that have, THC content of 50%. And I'm like, 50%? How is that possible? I see a lot of things in stores that I don't understand, and I want to ask, but the people that work there, I'm sure they don't know. And I'm like, maybe I should ask my professors. But it's just, and they've taught us some things, but it's like, I see some things where I'm like, what is this? Like, how do you get 50%? Are they adding fake THC to the plant? I don't know if anybody, I need to ask growers, I don't know. But I, in New York, have seen cannabis being sold, not at licensed dispensaries, but in like, corner stores and like smoke shops in New York where they have cannabis with 50% THC. That kind of freaks me out, okay? Because I don't want to have like such a crazy tolerance, like that's super high. But for the most part, THC is not what I'm looking at. That I'm looking at the terpenes. And so there's a cannabis strain that I just got, this lime skunk muffins, that was apparently had eucalyptol in it, okay? So terpenes, they are the aromatic compounds that are in all plants, not just in plants, they're also in animal fats as well. They're in milk, they're even beta carotene, okay, is a terpene, okay? The people here is vitamin A, which is actually a precursor for vitamin A. But you have You have like linalool, which is in lavender, and valencine, which is in oranges, and terpinolene, which is in apples and nutmeg and lilac. You have like some that are in roses. I can't remember. You have myrcene, beta caryophyllene, which is like in peppers and stuff, and also binds to receptors. So there's all these different terpenes. Some of them are energizing, some of them are sedating, some of them are really good for pain and inflammation. And there's different combinations of them, and how they are depends on how the strain can affect you, okay? So that is what I look at. And eucalyptol is in eucalyptus. And I haven't come across a cannabis strain yet that has a significant amount of eucalyptol. So I know when I see eucalyptol, this is going to be good for not just opening up, but eucalyptus is also something that helps to pull out, okay? Eucalyptus, like if you steam with eucalyptus, if I do a vaginal steam, or if somebody is doing a nasal steam, eucalyptus is something that pulls out, like the icky or whatever needs to come out. It also does that, and it opens up. So if I see a strain that has eucalyptol, I'm like, oh, that would be a good strain to smoke for somebody who has respiratory issues. It actually can help asthma, okay? I have videos on my Instagram page, and that actually is one of the best ways to consume it if you do have asthma. But how you smoke it is an issue. What are you smoking it out of? There are dry herb vaporizers might be better for somebody with dry herb vaporizers might be better for somebody with asthma. But when you're breathing it through the lungs, it's actually Bush Dr. Oski vape. You're talking about the dry herb vape, I think you're talking about, right? When you ingesting cannabis, by breathing it in is actually a very efficient way of getting the medicine in and exchanging it. And when you're using any kind of herbs, you want to think about the body parts you're using it for. Like you can have multiple sites of application, but like for example, when I talk about women and using it for womb issues, dry herb vape. Okay, thank you. When women are using herbs for womb issues, women can drink teas. A woman can drink red raspberry leaf tea, and she can drink in the mouth. The mouth and the vagina and all that is actually connected. So yes, you can orally ingest herbal teas for your womb. But then you can also take those same herbs and put it in a bucket of boiling water and do a vaginal steam. And doing those two together is going to be more powerful than just one of them alone. Okay, so you can have multiple applications. But if you're doing it for a womb issue, if you had to pick one, I would say doing the vaginal steams is the most effective because it's hitting it right at that spot, right? So you're thinking about the spot that you want to hit. So if you're dealing with your lungs, ingesting it that way is going to go right into your lungs and do its work, right? It's not true that smoking is always bad 100% of the time. That is not true. People have been smoking various herbs for medicinal purposes without having any chronic health issues and living long, healthy lives for thousands of years on the planet. Okay, sorry, somebody called me. Steam can be used for lungs too. Yes, exactly. Yes, it can. Yes, it can. Like, if somebody was congested, or like when C19 was a thing, that's what I would have done. When C19 was bad in New York, I went to New York and I was like, if my parents get sick, I'm gonna take care of them. And that was one of the things that I would have done, is taking garlic, some ginger, some oregano, and put that, in if you have cannabis. I mean, that could be expensive, but if I was just growing cannabis plants, I'd throw that in there too. But definitely, and maybe even eucalyptus, right? And just breathe that steam. So yes, steam can also be used for lungs as well, and that respiratory. And then that person could also drink teas too. Like they could say, okay, I have a respiratory issue. I'm going to breathe the steam, and now I'm going to take some oil of oregano tincture and put it in my green tea with echinacea. You know what I'm saying? And you're drinking it. So you have like multiple routes that you're attacking it from. I think that's always like the best way to use herbs. But yeah, throw ganja in it. Yeah, it's highly effective in that way. And the thing is, and I think that it's important for people to learn how to grow. Like, I travel a lot, so, but I would love, especially teaching it to, my parents, my dad, who's, they're there more. They don't move around as much as me. Because growing it, you can definitely, throw it in steams, you smoke it, cook with it, make oils, you know what I'm saying? You're not worrying about the expense of it at all. But yeah, so I just wanted to make, I don't think, I see companies keep inventing these different papers. A friend of mine had some rolling paper that I like smoking out of a tobacco leaf. That's the only thing I like smoking out of. I don't like pipes. I don't like bongs. I don't like, I'll do a dry herb vape, but I wouldn't want to do it all the time because that is something that like is way more potent. So it's not like, when you smoke a blunt, you're slowly doing it, but if you smoke a dry herb vape, like you smoke a blunt, you'll be way too high. So for me, it's also like that. It's like when somebody's sipping on a drink versus taking a shot. You know what I'm saying? And to me, a bong is like taking a shot. It's like feeling like you're about to die. You're coughing up all this smoke. To me, when I take a shot of alcohol, I feel like I just poison myself. Like, I'm not a fan of taking shots. I do it if I'm around friends and they're like, oh, do it. Then I'm like, okay, I'll do it for you. But I'm not, it feels like poison. I'd rather drink a mixed drink and sip on it, okay? But how it affects you, how it hits you a lot faster. It affects you differently depending on how you're smoking it. I'm not a fan of papers. I like a tobacco leaf, okay? And that's the only way I smoke tobacco. I'm not a fan of hookah. I think people are crazy who smoke hookah because I'm like, what is that? They're putting flavored tobacco on charcoal and breathing it. Like, what is that? And then to me, smoking tobacco like that it makes me feel sick. I smoked hookah once. I had no desire to do it. I smoked it once with some friends in LA, like maybe a decade ago or something. And it made me feel so sick, To me, smoking like tobacco is too up in the air, too lightheaded. But it goes perfect with a little bit of it. So I have it with just the leaf, okay? My cannabis is wrapped in a tobacco leaf. And cannabis does have tobacco does also have medicinal properties. I've done videos about that. When they're dealing with acetylcholine and choline in the brain, it actually can help prevent Alzheimer's, okay? It's also very good for your brain. But sitting there smoking hookah, people look crazy. And they act like they think they're cool because they're not smoking weed. And it's like, you look crazy smoking that. And so, of course, the tobacco leaf that you're smoking out of, you have to be conscious and careful about that and what's put on it. I actually prefer backwoods, which are actually made in the Dominican Republic. In the Dominican Republic and Cuba, cannabis is super illegal, okay? And both countries really deal with tobacco. Now, I don't know how much the Dominican Republic talks about the medicinal properties of tobacco, because I've been to the Dominican Republic once and I went to 2 places and I didn't see any of that. But in Cuba, you definitely see several books, 400-page books. And next time I go back, I'm going to buy some. There's like 400-page books about the medicinal properties of tobacco, okay? They worship tobacco in Cuba like you've never seen. Okay, and they understand it as a medicine. Okay, and Cuba is very much into herbal medicine. You go into the pharmacies and you see herbal tinctures. They also use pharmaceuticals as well, but they don't mess with cannabis. And it's like, to me, from what I can see, unless I'm wrong, somebody tell me if I am wrong. But it seems to me that in the Caribbean, the only country that really embraces and has a history of medicinal cannabis is Jamaica. I don't see it in the Spanish-speaking countries. I don't see it in Haiti. There's another Caribbean island that just made it legal for Rastas or something. I don't know if it was Antigua or something. So I don't really know much about those islands, but of like the Caribbean islands I know of, Jamaica seems to be the only one, especially of like the major ones, that has that history. Now, if I'm wrong, please correct me because I'm always, into learning that. But there are many healing herbs. And you can use them in tandem with each other because, first of all, they all have terpenes and other medicinal compounds, and so they can work in tandem. But to me, cannabis is like the top of the top with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the top of the top. It can be used for so many things. Okay. I did a video about cannabis orgasms, talking about applications with that. And so in that, I talk about smoking versus ingesting versus using topically for women, and even for a woman, using cannabis for sexual reasons or for, to have better orgasms and calm down. That can be hit from different angles. It could be maybe she smokes a little and then she uses a topical on the vulva, okay? That can make a woman, that increases the blood flow, can make her a lot more aroused, they make the orgasms a lot more intense, make her feel a lot more, and even, I don't know, depending on who the woman is, some women might take an edible and that might help, you know what I'm saying? So there's multiple applications, okay? And so you really want to think, what are you using it for? And this is all herbs. What are you using it for? Okay, what are you using it for? It depends on how you use it and what's the most effective way. Okay, so when people just are across the board like, oh, smoking is bad. Now, I hear so many medical professionals saying that who are supposed to be cannabis doctors. I listened to this man talk about, now he's a cannabis expert, but did you ever use it? Did you ever have a history of it? Or did you just learn it in a book? And based on your deductions, based on what you read in the books and how people say, this is bad and that's bad, now you're going to say that tinctures are the best way to use cannabis always for everything. And that's not true. Because again, like using it sexually, for me, a tincture is not going to help with that. It's using it topically, a tincture can't do that. Okay. When I, or even like getting into a creative space or if my knee hurts, okay. If my knee hurts, I need to use it topically, okay? Not using a tincture, all right? But there are medicinal applications when it comes to smoking, okay? So there's not one way that is like the best way, okay? When it comes to cannabis, you can smoke it, you can ingest it, like you can put it in food and eat it, swallow it and ingest it, let it be converted to 11-hydroxy-THC, which is a different drug, which I think has different medicinal applications that is not talked about. People put THC in the same category, but Delta-9 and 11-hydroxy are two different drugs, okay? And so maybe I feel like that's why, like, on my spinal pain, smoking weed wasn't doing anything. But when I ingested it, oh yeah, because now it's 11-hydroxy-THC, so perhaps that different drug has different pharmacological actions. Nobody really talks about that, okay? But, so, and then it's also longer lasting. Some people don't want something to be longer lasting. Sometimes you want it to be minute. Sometimes you want it to be longer lasting. Again, you smoke, you can feel it right now. Oh, I'm good. Okay, I'm calm now, I'm good. And then when you need it again, smoke some more. But when you're using the edibles, you don't know. It could be hours from now. And now you can't get up because you're so freaking, and that's not a good thing for a lot of people, especially older people, okay? Older people are more sensitive to that. And not only older people, when it comes to nutrition, the elderly and the very young are like have a lot in common, okay? Like when it comes to their nutritional requirements, but it's also true when it comes to cannabis. So eating too much edibles for an older person a lot of times is a miserable feeling and a miserable thing for them that can be traumatizing, okay? And I've seen that happen, and you have to be careful with them because they're also maybe on other medications. And so you have to understand how to space out the cannabis and other medications and the dosing and, all of that. And hopefully get them off those other medications, right? But you have to be conscious of that. But, there's a lot of, I was shocked when I learned in one of my classes that there's crazy amounts of kids getting hospitalized for consuming too many edibles. And I'm like, oh my God, like all these kids are getting into their parents' edibles and eating high doses of it. And some of them are so intoxicated that they can't even, it's like you don't have to think to breathe, okay? That's not something that it's a voluntary really action kind of, maybe it's both. But we don't really think about, let me breathe, but they're so intoxicated that they're like, their brain can really think about breathing. And it's not that they're going to die because there's no cannabinoid receptors in that part of the brain, but their breathing might be so slowed down and so labored that they have to be intubated, and it can last for a really long time. So you have to be careful with that. But see, if somebody had cannabis flower in their house and their kids got into it, that wouldn't happen. If they sat there and ate the weed flowers, that wouldn't happen. But when you're eating edibles, you're eating these candies and you know what I'm saying? Then, you know, if somebody had it in some sardines, the kids wouldn't be eating that much. But you're putting it in gummy bears and cookies and brownies, and I would think parents would do a better job at hiding it from their kids. But there are a lot of cases of kids being hospitalized because of it. So with edibles, you do have to be more careful as well. And so the smoking is a better option for a lot of people for that reason. You know, it really depends on what somebody's shooting it for and what their life situation is like. Some people are in a place where they can't smoke, you know. So it just depends on all those things, okay? So hopefully this made sense. Hopefully you learned something from this. If you did, please like it. Please share it. Please subscribe to me on Instagram and YouTube. Well, follow me on Instagram, subscribe on YouTube. I don't always post the same videos in both places, but I will be saving this and reposting it to my YouTube. So I will see you all in my next video, and I will be getting more in depth and doing some videos on cannabis strain reviews on my subscriptions on Instagram, because, you know, so getting more into what strains would be good for what and why, and like analyzing the strains. Okay, so I will talk to you all later. Have a good day. Bye.